To travel with something this old and this rare and this irreplaceable is both exciting and nerve-wracking. Nerve-wracking because if something should happen to it, you cannot get another one, which is the greatest fear of, I think, any archivist. But exciting. You don't get to bring a document like this home that often.
When something turns 400, it's worth throwing a little celebration, and having this bond and having the connection between the New York Stock Exchange and the Netherlands that goes back, 400 years is really something to mark. Think about this bond. It's basically raising money to repair a dike and build a landing space for boats to land, and the whole community would benefit from it. And increasingly with climate change to, not just combat climate, but also coincide with the changing world.
You look at something like this and you see not only people partaking in a tradition, but coming together for something bigger than themselves. I don't know that many people necessarily think when they buy a bond that they're doing something patriotic, and I don't know that people necessarily think of it that way, but I look at something like this and that's in many ways what I see.
When this bond was issued December 10th, 1624, it's written that every 6 months it's supposed to be brought back to where it was signed, which is where we are today, and presented, and then the interest is given. And so along the margins of it are all the years going back from 1625, 1626, moving on. It's really a cool experience to be part of it, and it's really cool how it is 400 years old, it is history, but it really is tying into a lot of the conversations we're having in Intercontinental Exchange today around valuing climate, valuing water management, and valuing these products that are, in some ways they're the oldest products we have, bonds, but also it's some of the most innovative stuff is happening in them. If you think about it, we're sitting in the Netherlands, a country that's had to think about water management for its entire existence. But now everywhere it does. If you think about closer to home in the United States, we are seeing water in places we haven't had water before. We're seeing water not in places we used to have water. And so this idea of what can you learn from, a 400-year history, and actually longer, the bond's 400 years old, but the underlying structure that the Netherlands used, is we can all learn from that as the idea of basically coming together collectively as a community to put together the funding, and also not only that, the infrastructure needed to combat or in some ways just redirect climate. We are in some ways looking back to also look forward, and our parent company, particularly Intercontinental Exchange, begins to look at the products we're going to need, not just to track and put data to climate change, but also create the investment products we need to either live alongside it, combat it, or even potentially reverse it.
This one is really a living document. It's not just capturing the purchase of debt from a company or a government. It's capturing that moment and then every year thereafter. So you have the text of the bond itself, of the agreement for how much is being lent, but then all around the edges, every single year that an interest payment was made, you have someone else's hand being affixed to this document. Someone coming year after year after year for, at this point, centuries to engage in the same fairly simple act, but a meaningful act, year after year. And so it's amazing that it's a living document. It's still serving the exact same function it served the day it was written. And that's, in many ways, the beauty of what we're here for, is to still partake in that same act that someone partook in 400 years ago.
The core of what that bond does, or what the markets do, hasn't changed, which is raise the capital needed to do something big and then help everyone hopefully benefit from that, either from what it builds or from investing in it. So what changes around it is obviously the technology, is the data, is the ability to connect things. We have bonds in the New York Stock Exchange that were sold in the Netherlands that were US bonds from the 1700s, but now instantaneously there's a global ability to invest in products and trade with each other and share information and share data.
That's the beauty of this document, is that you look at it and you see the physical evidence, line after line, of that promise kept by both sides for 400 years, and hopefully 400 more. It's an important document. It should get its due and get to see the world and get to come home once in a while.